In a world awash with filters and facades, the most potent magnetism emanates not from what we display, but from what we dare to reveal. What if the key to becoming truly unforgettable lies not in the pursuit of perfection, but in the courage to be unapologetically real? The great explorer of the human psyche, Carl Jung, understood a profound truth. We are not drawn to what appears flawless. We are drawn to what feels authentic. The 7 paradoxical traits of an unforgettable person are not the ones society champions. They are the ones we have been taught to hide, to suppress, to silence. But here is the revelation. What you have been hiding may be the very source of your power. We invest so much time polishing the exterior, our appearance, our words, our public image, while our true strength lies buried beneath. It is a quiet strength, an unshakable calm, an ability to be fully present without performing. It is not about being the loudest voice in the room, but about being the presence that lingers, the one people feel long after you have gone. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius spoke not to impress others, but to understand himself. Epictetus sought not the attention of the crowd, but mastery over his inner world. And that is the ultimate strength today. To own your truth so completely that you no longer require anyone's permission to be powerful. So, if you have ever felt that you are too much, or not enough, that you are overlooked no matter how much you give, then prepare to reframe your story. We will now explore 7 secrets that make a person unforgettable, not through strategy or superficial charm, but by becoming so deeply rooted in who you are that your presence is irreplaceable. And if this exploration resonates with something true within you, if it offers a challenge or a moment of peace, there is one simple way you can help us continue. Just subscribe. It is how we grow this space together, with truth, with depth, and without filters. Let us begin. Secret 1. Do not be a filtered version of yourself. Let us be honest. Most of us are performing, though we may not even realize it. Not on a stage, but in the quiet theater of everyday life. We curate our emotions as meticulously as we curate our photographs, posting smiles while our hearts are weary, assuring others we are fine because it is easier than revealing the truth. This performance becomes second nature. But here is the danger. When you perform for too long, you begin to forget who you are beneath the act. You trade authenticity for approval, and in time, the approval ceases to be enough. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." But how can you know yourself when you have spent years becoming who the world told you to be? This goes beyond social media. It is a mindset. It is the way we soften our opinions in conversation, or dampen our excitement so as not to seem too much. It is the way we avoid taking up space, because somewhere along the way, we learned that being fully ourselves was risky, too loud, too different, too inconvenient. Yet every person who has ever changed the world was all of those things. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who your parents expected, not who your job prefers, but you, the raw, unfiltered, evolving version. That is where your power resides, not in the polished image, but in the truth beneath it." Jung's work centered on individuation, the process of integrating every part of yourself, especially the messy ones, to become whole. And wholeness is infinitely more compelling than perfection. Think of the people who have left the deepest impression on you. Were they the ones who had it all together, or the ones who made you feel it was okay not to? They were the ones who were honest, even when it wasn't pretty, who laughed without hesitation and cried without apology. Those people stay with us, not because they were flawless, but because they were real. And in a world drowning in artifice, real is revolutionary. Socrates challenged us to examine our lives, not just live them on autopilot. Part of that examination is asking the difficult questions, like, where am I pretending simply to be accepted? If you sit with that question, you will find the cracks in your facade, the places where you have traded truth for comfort. These places do not need your judgment, they need your attention. For that is where the masks live, and when you begin to peel them away, you will feel something wild and unfamiliar. Freedom. They will tell you that being real is too much, too emotional, too quiet, too intense. But notice how every version of too much is simply code for hard to control. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that true freedom is not about doing whatever you want. It is about not being owned by anything outside of yourself. When you stop contorting yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone, you reclaim that freedom. You begin to live from the inside out. Plato spoke of the shadows on the cave wall, false images we mistake for reality. How many of us are still living in that cave, mistaking the shadow version of ourselves for the real thing? But authenticity is not meant to be easily digestible. It is bold. It is layered. It is challenging. And once you stop hiding, something incredible happens. The people who are meant for you find you. Not the ones who tolerate your light, but the ones who reflect it back. The others simply fall away, quietly and naturally. Let them go. You were never meant to be a watered-down version of yourself. You were meant to be whole. Secret 2. Evolve without losing your essence. Growth is a word we all claim to desire, but few understand its true nature. For real growth is not the simple accumulation of knowledge or milestones. It is the delicate art of letting go, of shedding old versions of yourself without losing the essence of your soul. It is choosing to evolve not to chase approval, but to align more deeply with your true self. Some confuse this growth with performance, shape-shifting to fit in. But fitting in has never been the same as belonging. One is a costume, the other is a home. Plato once wrote, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." This is the heart of true transformation. It is not about impressing others with how much you have changed. It is about looking in the mirror and knowing that every step forward was a choice born of inner conviction. A deep, quiet, grounded decision to become better, not for them, but for you. The Stoics understood this intimately. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." It is a simple, direct command. For the Stoics, growth was not about external achievements, but about internal character. It was about becoming someone whose inner world was not governed by the noise outside. To evolve does not mean you abandon who you are. It means you refine who you are. You do not discard your essence, you expand upon it. You are not becoming someone new. You are removing the interference, clearing the signal and unlocking capacities you never knew you possessed. The potential was always there. Growth simply brings it online. Carl Jung's concept of individuation involves shedding the parts of you that were built on fear, on pleasing others, on avoiding discomfort. Some beliefs, habits, and identities were merely survival tools. They served their purpose, but now they keep you small. The moment you recognize this is the moment you begin to evolve consciously, not reactively. And let us be clear, choosing to grow does not mean you hate who you are now. It means you love yourself enough not to remain stagnant. Real growth respects the present enough to refuse to let it be your final destination. It is a declaration. I have come this far, and I am ready to go further. This is not self-rejection. It is the highest form of self-respect. Socrates believed the unexamined life was not worth living. When you examine your life with curiosity instead of judgment, you begin to see the patterns, where you have compromised your values to fit into rooms you never truly wanted to be in. That awareness is power. It is the realization that you do not need permission to become the next version of yourself. You can simply begin. And yes, growth is messy. It can be awkward and lonely. It may mean saying goodbye to people who were only comfortable with the older, more agreeable version of you. Let them go. You are not here to keep everyone comfortable. You are here to keep your soul awake. You will know you are truly evolving when your silence says more than your explanations, when your peace becomes louder than your anxiety, and when the things that used to trigger you now teach you. So, if you are wondering if it is time for a change, this is your sign. You are allowed to outgrow what once felt like home. Growth is not betrayal. It is truth. Secret 3. Embrace your imperfections as your signature. We have been sold an illusion that to be loved or remembered, we must appear flawless, that we must smooth every rough edge and erase every mistake, wearing perfection like a suit of armor. But perfection is a sterile, lonely landscape. It is not our perfection that connects us, but our humanity. It is in our shared struggles, our common pain, that we truly find one another. Aristotle said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." But true self-knowledge comes not from studying your strengths, but from owning your shadows. It comes from looking at your flaws and saying, "This is mine, and I am not ashamed." Shame only has power in the darkness. The moment you bring your imperfections into the light, they lose their grip. Carl Jung put it best. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms. That part of you that you have hidden away, the one you fear makes you unlovable or strange, may, in fact, be your superpower. It is the very thing that could make someone else feel seen, the key that could lead another out of their own darkness. We all carry scars. Society has tried to sell us remedies to cover them up, but those scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you have healed. They are evidence that you have felt deeply, fought through, and endured. That resilience is magnetic. People do not remember the person who never cracked. They remember the one who cracked but did not shatter. The Stoics taught that it is not what happens to you, but how you respond, that defines you. Your mistakes are not your identity. Your response to them is your character. And a compelling story is never one where everything goes right. It is one where the hero faces the fire and walks through it anyway. When you show up, flaws and all, you become a mirror, reflecting back to others what is possible when we stop trying to be untouchable and start daring to be human. Think of one chapter in your story you have been afraid to share. What if, instead of making you lesser, that part of you is precisely what makes you unforgettable? Plato believed truth was found within. And what greater truth is there than to be able to say, "Yes, I have struggled, I have failed, and I am still here." That is not a confession. It is a declaration of your full humanity. The world does not need another filtered personality. It needs people who have been through the fire and did not let it turn them cold. That is the kind of presence that endures. You do not need to apologize for the old versions of yourself. You honor them by becoming stronger and wiser, not by erasing them, but by building upon them. Secret 4. Stop needing. Start choosing. There is a quiet desperation that many of us carry, a silent craving to be chosen, to be seen, to be validated by the world outside. It is a lesson learned in childhood, to raise a hand and wait to be called upon. But the more you strive to be chosen, the less you feel you belong. To be chosen is to place your worth in another's hands. It is to say, "I need you to see my value before I can believe in it myself." That is not power. It is permission-seeking disguised as love. But here lies the transformation that will alter your reality. Cease waiting to be picked, and begin deciding who is worthy of your presence. This is not a subtle shift, it is a revolution of the self. Instead of shrinking to fit into someone else's world, you stand tall in your own and ask, does this person deserve to be here? This question comes not from arrogance, but from alignment. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Part of learning how to live is learning how not to beg for belonging. You were not put here to audition for connection. The people who are meant for you will not need convincing. They will feel your energy and recognize it not just as valuable, but as rare. Carl Jung believed we project our unmet needs onto others. If someone makes you feel you must constantly prove your worth, perhaps they are only showing you their own emptiness. That is their lesson to learn, not yours to internalize. Your lesson is this: you are the chooser. Your life is your space. Your energy is your currency. And not everyone is granted access simply because they ask. Imagine how your relationships might shift if, instead of wondering, do they like me, you began to ask, do they align with the person I am becoming? Not the version of you that craves applause, nor the one who settles for less, but the version that is grounded, evolving, and consciously choosing peace over chaos. Suddenly, your focus is no longer on being more likable, it is on living more authentically. And when you inhabit that space, something profound occurs. People begin to respect you, not for what you offer them, but for the way you honor yourself. As Plato once suggested, the measure of a man is what he does with power. True personal power, the grounded, non-performative kind, stems from having standards, from understanding that love, attention, and intimacy are not things to be chased. They are welcomed when they arrive from a place of integrity. You have the authority to decide who steps closer and who remains at the gate, not as a game, but as an act of protecting your peace. And make no mistake, that peace is precious. You have fought for it. Do not give it away cheaply. There is a confidence that needs no announcement, a presence that requires no performance. When you release the need for approval, others sense it. They feel your self-respect. They recognize your boundaries. And something within them, whether conscious or not, begins to think, this person is different. I cannot afford to lose them. This is what makes you unforgettable, not because you were the loudest or the most agreeable, but because you were whole, and you refused to hand out pieces of yourself to anyone who simply smiled in your direction. Socrates taught that the secret to change is to focus your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So, build this version of you, the one who does not shrink, who does not ask to be chosen, who knows that the right people will never make you question your worth. As for the wrong ones, let them go. You do not need their permission to be powerful. From this day forward, measure your value not by how many people desire you, but by how true you are to yourself. Because when you show up with that kind of energy, that kind of intention, people feel it. More importantly, you feel it. You walk differently. You choose with greater wisdom. You no longer need to be chosen. You already are. By you. And that changes everything. Embrace your intensity without apology. There is an unspoken rule that whispers through society. Don't feel too much. Don't speak too passionately. Don't care too deeply. Be chill. Be easy. Be low maintenance. But let us be honest. This path does not lead to connection. It leads to distance. It creates a performance, turning you into a muted version of yourself. If you have ever been told you are too much, too emotional, too sensitive, too intense, I want you to hear this with absolute clarity. That is not a flaw. It is a gift. You feel deeply because you care. You express intensely because you are alive. You are not too much. You are simply not easy to ignore. Carl Jung believed the emotional world was not something to be repressed, but something to be integrated. There is no coming to consciousness without pain, he said. The intensity you carry is not there to break you. It is there to awaken you. It is the part of you that refuses to let life remain on the surface. And yes, it may make some people uncomfortable, but their discomfort is not your burden to solve. It often says more about their own emotional limitations than it does about your emotional intelligence. And let us speak of intelligence. Emotional depth is not weakness, it is wisdom. Aristotle spoke of the virtue of moderation, but he did not mean suppressing your nature. He meant mastering it, directing it, feeling without drowning, loving without losing yourself. That is the line between chaos and courage, and your ability to feel deeply is courageous. In a world where many numb themselves, scroll endlessly, or build walls, you show up with your heart still open. That is not too much. That is rare. Why, then, do people call you too much? Because intensity cannot be controlled. It demands presence. It asks probing questions. It feels everything. And that level of honesty is frightening to those hiding behind masks. Your passion makes them question their apathy. Your tears make them confront their numbness. Your truth makes them uncomfortable with their own deceptions. So, rather than do the work to meet you where you are, they label you. But that is not truth. It is projection. Even the Stoics, masters of self-discipline, never taught us to deny emotion. They taught us to understand it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That power extends to your emotional life. You do not need to tone yourself down. You need only to direct your fire. Let your emotions inform you, not rule you. That is strength. That is what sets you apart." Socrates said, "To know thyself is the beginning of wisdom." Knowing yourself means accepting the depth of your feelings without judgment. It means honoring your sensitivity, not as a weakness, but as a form of awareness, your radar for truth. It is why you can walk into a room and sense what is left unsaid. It is why your intuition is so sharp, why your connections run deeper, and why those who truly know you feel seen in a way they never have before. So no, you are not too much. You are simply unwilling to live a small life. You are unwilling to fake indifference or detach from what matters to you. That does not make you difficult. It makes you authentic. In a world that teaches us to shut down, you are choosing to remain open. That is a strength. And it is unforgettable. The next time someone tells you that you're too much, smile, look them in the eye and say, "Then go find less." Because you are not shrinking to fit inside their comfort zone. You are expanding into your full emotional power. And the people who are meant for you will never ask you to be smaller. They will rise to meet you. They will match your depth and celebrate your passion, not flinch from it. Because people who feel deeply love deeply, and people who love deeply change lives. Do not dim that light. Be all of you. Be bold, be passionate, be real. That is how you leave your mark. Hold your standards without guilt. A quiet power awakens within someone the moment they realize they deserve more. It is not a loud, boastful declaration, but a calm, steady presence that says, "I am not settling anymore." It is as if a switch has been flipped. The old patterns, the one-sided relationships, the draining conversations, the constant pretending, they simply stop. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. Once you recognize your own worth, the begging and the chasing end. You are no longer seeking scraps of love or fragments of attention. You are holding out for what is real. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus advised, "Never value anything as profitable to yourself which shall compel you to break your promise, to lose your self-respect." In other words, if you must betray yourself to keep someone, the cost is already too high. The people who understand this, the ones who can walk away without burning the bridge, are powerful in the best possible way. They cannot be manipulated, they will not be shamed, and they will not remain where their peace is repeatedly broken. Most people are not afraid of losing someone who needs them. They are afraid of losing someone who does not need them, but chooses them. There is a profound difference. When you know what lifts your energy and what drains it, you stop making decisions from a place of loneliness and start making them from a place of clarity. That is rare. That is magnetic. That is what inspires people to earn a place in your life instead of assuming one. As Carl Jung noted, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But once you do, you stop asking others for the validation you have already given yourself. And when you are no longer performing for love, people begin to see the real you. That version, grounded, self-respecting, and unwilling to play small, is the one they do not want to lose, because that kind of presence is stabilizing, refreshing, and true. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They do not push people away. They let the right ones in. They declare, "Here is what I will allow, and here is what I will not." Not out of coldness, but out of clarity. And that clarity is what protects your energy, ensuring you are not constantly in a state of repair, recovering from things that should never have crossed your threshold. Socrates taught that real change comes from focusing your energy on building the new. So, if you are tired of being drained, overlooked, or taken for granted, perhaps it is time to stop trying to fix those who do not know how to value you. Perhaps it is time to build a new standard, a new way of being that does not bend simply to keep a fragile peace. Because a peace that costs you your self-worth is merely self-abandonment in disguise. Knowing what you deserve does not mean you believe you are better than anyone else. It means you have finally decided you are not less. That decision transforms the way you speak, love, and choose. You stop entertaining half-efforts, half-presence, and half-truths. You do not demand perfection, but you do require consistency. You are not looking for a fairy tale. You are looking for honesty. And you stop asking, "Am I asking for too much?" and start wondering, "Why was I settling for so little?" Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." Let self-respect become your habit. Let saying no when something feels wrong become second nature. Let choosing peace over popularity become your default. The world will adjust. The wrong people will fall away. The right ones will rise. Revisit your standards, not a wish list, but your non-negotiables. The things that protect your peace, your time, and your spirit. Because once those are in place, you no longer wait to be treated right. You expect it. And that changes everything. Love from a place of fullness, not from a place of lack. There is a kind of love that feels like pressure, like a weight. It is the kind that whispers, "Don't leave me. I need you to be okay." Though not ill-intentioned, it is heavy. It suffocates instead of supports. This is because when you love from a place of emptiness, that love becomes a transaction, a subtle plea for emotional survival. You are not truly offering love, you are offering need. And that kind of love, no matter how sincere, eventually exhausts everyone involved. True love begins with self-acceptance. Once you accept yourself, fully and without conditions, your love ceases to be something you need for survival and becomes something you choose to give. You are no longer handing someone your broken pieces, begging them to glue you back together. You are already whole. And when you are whole, your love becomes light. It becomes peace. It uplifts instead of overwhelms. People often mistake intensity for love and clinging for connection. But real connection is not built on the fear of losing someone. It is built on the freedom of choosing them again and again without dependency. This kind of love is rare because it is not about possession. It is about presence. It says, "I am here because I want to be, not because I will fall apart otherwise." The Stoics taught that our peace should never be at the mercy of things we cannot control. As Epictetus reminded us, only the educated are free. In this case, emotionally educated. Free from the need for validation to feel worthy. When you have done the inner work, when you have filled your own cup, you no longer chase love. You radiate it. And that radiance is unforgettable. Consider the energy of a person who walks into a room with calm confidence, with a joy that does not rely on others. You feel it. It is magnetic, grounding, and healing. People fear losing that kind of energy, not because it feeds their ego, but because it awakens something real and stable within them. You do not get that presence from someone who is emotionally starving. You get it from someone who knows they are already full and that anything they share is a gift, not a cry for rescue. Socrates observed that the hottest love has the coldest end. He was speaking of the love born from obsession and neediness, the attempt to fill a void through another person. But when your love begins from fullness, flowing from a life you have built and a peace you have earned, it does not burn out. It evolves. It breathes. It offers a hand to walk beside another. This is why it is so vital to fill your own cup first. Not later, not when someone worthy comes along, but now. If your cup is empty, you will drain every connection trying to quench a thirst only you can satisfy. But if it is full, you will give from your overflow, and the people who deserve you will not try to drink from your source. They will be nourished by your abundance, and they will honor it. Aristotle believed the highest form of love, philia, was a virtuous friendship, a bond between people who seek the good in each other and in themselves. That kind of love does not cling or control. It strengthens both people. And you only get there by being whole before you arrive. So ask yourself, am I giving love from a wound or from wisdom? Am I offering my heart from fear or from freedom? Love should never feel like a lifeline. It should feel like light. You do not need someone to complete you. You need someone who complements the wholeness you have already fought so hard to earn. That is the energy people are afraid to lose. That is the presence they will never find twice. Take care of yourself first. Fill your soul. Know your worth. And then, when you love, let it be a reflection of your fullness, not a plea to be filled. The right ones will not just stay. They will protect that light, knowing they are in the presence of something rare. The most unforgettable energy you will ever carry is the quiet knowing that you are whole, without needing to prove, perform, or chase. When you choose yourself first, the right people will never ask you to shrink. They will rise with you,